A lot of you are concerned right now about your premium aircraft carriers, and you're wondering if you should keep them when the rework and 8.0 goes live. I'm going to do my best to give you some highlights of each of the premium Tier 8 carriers: Kaga, Saipan, Zeppelin, and Enterprise. Hopefully this might shed some light on each of them, though I must warn you, I did not spend an absurd amount of time in them. I must also warn you, it looks like it'll take some time to learn the nuances of each carrier, and they all bring something different to the table. So let's start with the Saipan. First and foremost, each carrier has its own gimmick, as you will. This is still the case as it was before, though these gimmicks might not be as pronounced as they were in the previous iteration of aircraft carriers. For Saipan, its gimmick, in my opinion, is twofold. First, it has absurdly fast fighter planes that work very effectively at spotting the enemy team right off the bat. I don't think I've ever had 11 spotting ribbons in the first minute of a round, let alone a round alone. The second major gimmick are the torpedo bombers. They carry and launch 2 torpedoes each, so you have 2 planes dropping 4 torpedoes. This isn't bad, except for the fact that torpedoes on American carriers seem to be fairly slow. It'll take time to learn the happy medium of when to drop. Saipan is also on the lower side of the amount of planes it puts in the air per squadron at around 6. Other carriers put in a lot more. Saipan's bombs are your general HE bombs, and they have a pretty decent fire chance. Now let's take a look at the Enterprise, which in my opinion is a very strong option for premium carriers. With the ability to put up very large squadrons, the Enterprise's strongest attribute may very well be in its AP bombers, which have the ability to do massive amounts of damage and find citadels on battleships. You have a lot of planes and the ability to go back for seconds if you don't find your mark on the first run through. You also have a very large torpedo bomber squadron with a favorable drop pattern. I felt that the torpedo bombers on Enterprise were much easier to work with than that of the Saipan. You get 3 drops, though this is less than the 4 torpedoes you get on the Saipan, and of course, once your 3 planes drop, you still have plenty of planes left that can circle around and drop again. I must warn, learning when to drop your torpedoes and start your run will be a challenge for many at first. It's not intuitive and can be frustrating, as both changing course and AA will affect your torpedo spread very quickly. It's not as easy as it may have been made to sound in the past. Lastly, you have a decent-sized fighter squadron that works wonders at finishing off wounded ships. It seems that the Enterprise airplanes have decent speed boost to them. Saipan's fighters use their boost up very fast, whereas Enterprise planes seems to be more of a slow burn. Overall, Enterprise is fairly easy to work with, provided you get favorable matchmaking. Life is very hard when facing Tier 10 cruisers, as opposed to Tier 6 cruisers. The Kaga is a keeper in my opinion. As always, its strongest aspect are its torpedoes. 12 torpedo bombers flying at anyone can be alarming, and I felt the Kaga had the easiest and tightest spread to work with. Kaga also gives you 4 drops with each attack, putting it on par with the Saipan. You have the ability to put up 8 fighters in the air, and you can put 12 bombers up in the air. But you'll likely spend the majority of your time in the Kaga conducting torpedo runs. Lastly, we come to the Zeppelin. Many love this carrier, and many hated it. I feel that it's still a force to reckon with, though maybe not on the torpedo side. The Zeppelin's strength remains its armor-piercing bombs, which can still Citadel Montanas. The bombing will take some time getting used to at first. There's a happy place where you want to drop, which appears to be midway through the dive. Too close to the ship and it won't be effective. Too far and you'll likely miss. The torpedoes are fairly slow, but they seem to have a decent and long-lasting range. I got more than a few surprise hits well after my planes were relaunched. 3 of your torp bombers will drop at a time. Her fighter planes aren't too shabby as well, and have a decent chance of starting fires. I mentioned their use against destroyers, but one other major help they'll be to teams are in resetting caps, as you can get them on a cap quick. At around 8 planes per squadron, the Zeppelin is somewhat in the middle as far as squadron size. I find the Zeppelin to be one of the easier carriers to use, and you still have that nice and tight circular targeting reticle. The aim is still very good on Zeppelin. The decision to sell back your carriers will remain with you alone, though I would advise keeping them for the time being. If you can play them before making the ultimate decision on whether to keep or sell, I would do that. Though again, it'll take you time to learn the subtleties in each carrier. I think these carriers do have some promise though, and they do offer a fair amount of fun. I hope at the very least this gives you an idea of what to expect. Thanks for watching, Zoop out.